Hello, everyone. Welcome to Straight from the Strip. I'm Minty Best. We took a break last week, but we're back this week because UFC is also back, and this time in our beautiful city of Las Vegas, Nevada. Kelly could not join us today yet again, but she will be here with us in spirit or possibly make an appearance in the chat room. So maybe if you're lucky, you'll get something out of her. But Gianni, how are you doing?
Never better, never better. Looking forward to this UFC because I love to bet MMA because it comes from me. I originate all my moves. And the last 2 weeks, I've been piggybacking a group's Korean baseball. And it's like I wasn't giving it out to subscribers or anything. Real quick, here's what happened. I wake up one day and I look at the accounts and they're up all this money that I had to settle for the week. And I'm like, holy shit, what were you guys betting? And the kid's like, oh, we've been betting Korean baseball. So I said, cool. I said, let me give that to subscribers so they can make some money during this too. Right. And since I've been handing it out, they haven't done as well. So it's one of those things where I worked with them for so long. I trust their information, but timing's everything. So I'm just glad we got MMA Saturday, ready to fire.
There we go. And I know on wagertalk.com you have a 5% play loaded. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. Right. Those are rare, but I found the one I really like for Saturday.
Yes, you have a 5% play loaded on the card along with a couple more plays, and you'll continue to add them throughout the week when you see line moves that you like and find value in, correct?
That's what I wanted to touch on more than anything else. In fact, I didn't even want to release the 5% play yet, but there was just so much pressure from customer service of people that bought the play that want to know what the 5% is. But you got to pay attention. Almost as important as what you're going to bet is when you're going to bet it. And over these last 3 events, if you've been following the market, the one thing that stuck out more than anything else is that it's a market that is oversaturated with casual bettors, unlike other times in MMA, where yes, it's a casual bettor market, but because there's no other sports, you have everyone betting MMA. And we know casual bettors bet late. They're not out to get out ahead of the market, and they're not going to tie up their money 2 weeks in advance. So they bet on fight night. And in combat sports, as I've explained over and over again, unlike point spread sports where bettors tend to bet favorites and over, in combat sports, they tend to bet the underdogs, wanting to put up a little to win a lot, not a lot to win a little. So what this is forced is for books to adjust to that late money, and we saw a lot of favorites come down. I gave Jocko out on the show, remember last time? I didn't even want to give him out because he was like, we bet him at minus 130 all the way up to minus 160, 70, but I knew it was going to come back down, that bettors were going to take Anders, and it'll come way back down. And that's what I was worried about my 5% play, that I believe, even though wise guys agree with me, I believe the betting market disagrees with me, and by waiting, we probably were to get a better line, but customer service, what am I going to do? Got to make Johnny happy.
I know. Yes. Hi, Johnny. Anyway, guys, go check out Gianni's 5% best bet and along with his other plays on wagertalk.com. Like we said, he finds value throughout the week and will add more plays throughout the week if he sees fitting. And also, if you guys want to, Kyle Anthony also has his very first 5% best bet loaded on there as well. Wagertalk.com. It should be a great weekend. So this UFC Fight Night's main event will be Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns. Like always, it'll be the last fight we discuss before we end the show. And UFC on ESPN 9 is going to be this Saturday, May 30th. I'm actually getting used to watching UFC. It's a little more bearable. I don't close my eyes as much. So, I mean, I'm pretty eager to see what this weekend holds. We had a nice good break, and I think maybe Gianni, you might have needed that because it was like event after event after event, and we had like a nice break, and we're refreshed now, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was exciting having 3 events over 8 days, and I was lucky to come out on the plus side on each of those, so I was happy overall, but it is a lot of work because unlike, even a week of college football, it's a lot of teams, but you have all week to prepare, and you have a ton of power ratings to work with. And that's how I work with MMA, my power ratings. But it's hard to adjust your power ratings during this pandemic because of the unknowns. And you never want to adjust based on perception. You need the data to back up any power rating adjustment. And that's been
Right.
the issue, with all this. So I like the once a week is enough.
Yes, it's perfect. All right, so we'll first start in the preliminary rounds. In the light heavyweight division, we've got Jamahal Hill at -125 and Klidson de Abreu at +105. I'm getting these numbers at Westgate Superbook, by the way, guys, so if you want to know. Hill's known for his power punches. Klidson's struggling a little since he's entered the UFC. He's only won 1 out of his 3 last fights. And Hill's won only his only UFC fight, I think. But I guess this line is where it is because these fighters are unranked and pretty fresh. What do you think about this one? Do you have any leans for this play or this fight?
I haven't bet this fight. The line is dropping significantly. In fact, Jamahal Hill opened the -175 favorite. He's down to a -120 favorite. So it's a completely different fight because at -170, you got to conclude that the true line should be around -200 if you're going to bet the favorite around 67%. Now that he's at -120, the break even changes completely. So even though we're looking at the same fight, the line makes it a completely different fight if you're a bettor.
Yeah.
I think where it's gone now, I would look to the favorite or leave it alone. But here's the problem with betting Hill. Although he's going to have a nice height advantage, a nice reach advantage. In fact, he's got such a reach advantage, blindly these guys will win 65% of the time if you have that kind of advantage and you could keep the fight standing for 2 of the 3 rounds. You will win that fight more times than not. Here's the problem, though. You look at Abreu, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt out of ATT. He's fought a lot of tough opposition from when he came up in Russia, and we don't know enough about Jamahal Hill. He's only had 7 professional fights. His first fight in the UFC was an overmatched opponent. I mean, that really shouldn't have even been there. And I haven't seen him on the ground. I couldn't even find tape of him on the ground. All I've seen is him on his feet. He's great with his leg kicks, but he's fighting another southpaw, and a lot of times those leg kicks ain't there when it's southpaw versus southpaw. So again, line value I think is on Hill, but I didn't bet this fight, and I'm probably not going to touch it.
No problem. We never force a play. So the next one we want to talk about is going to be the women's flyweight. Katlyn Chookagian +120 versus Antonina Shevchenko. And I saw this matchup and I was like, didn't they just fight like a couple months ago? But it was Antonina's sister, Valentina Shevchenko, right? So Chookagian is looking to bounce back after losing to Antonina's sister, Valentina Shevchenko, a couple months back. And Antonina seems to be the favorite here at -140. Thoughts, Gianni?
Yeah, and listen, this fight, I think the line's going to continue to drop. We saw it go up. Valentina opened to -140. It got sprinkled down, dummied down to -120 and got steamed up. That was expected because my true implied win probability for Antonina Shevchenko is much higher than the implied win probability that this line reflects. In fact, I think this line should be closer to that -200 range. And here's why. Power ratings are much different than rankings. Records are irrelevant. Data is all that matters. And when you look at the rankings in the UFC, you have a 14th ranked Shevchenko against a 2nd ranked Chookagian. Power rating wise, that's just not the case. Antonina Shevchenko is much higher. Chookagian is much lower on my power ratings. With that said, here's why I really like the Shevchenko side. First of all, her sister just fought Chookagian and had no problems with her. And we know Valentina's sparring partner is Antonina. They've traveled together. They've trained together. That's all they have. So Antonina was playing Chookagian for her camp. Now she gets to fight Chookagian. So she's been preparing for this girl for almost 6 months or longer. And then matchup-wise, here's what you also have to remember. We're fighting inside the Apex. This is not going to be a 30-foot cage. It's a 25-foot octagon. A lot of different parameters we're working for. It will help some fighters. It will hurt other fighters. Chookagian's one of those fighters I don't think it'll help because she likes to fight from the outside. She likes to get a lot of space. and she throws those air punches all the time. Even if she's not hitting, she just likes throwing punches. It looks like volume. That's not going to be, you're not going to be able to do that with less space. So I think there's a lot of advantages for Shevchenko. For Chookagian to win this fight, I would think she'd have to take her to the ground and out-grapple her, but I just do not see that happening. I see this as a stand-up fight where Shevchenko is just going to pick her apart. Again, because of Valentina, Antonina doesn't get the respect, but she's out of Tiger Muay Thai as well. She's a elite striker, and this will be a strike fest. Highly favored to go to distance. That's the only problem. Only 4 of the 11 or 12 fights are favored not to go to distance. So according to the betting market, the judges will be busy on Saturday night. Why does that matter on this fight? I can't believe I'm just sharing all this shit. Gotta do it. I love the viewers. Love you guys for the support. But what have we been seeing with the judges? Volume doesn't matter. Impact matters. The guys that land harder have been getting the nods, even if they haven't outstruck the opponent. And we keep hearing about controversial decisions. In this fight, Shevchenko's the hammer, Chookagian's the nail. Judges are going to hear the thumps, and I think Antonina, in a decision, gets it done. She's down to -135. That's a steal. But you could even get her as a dog to win by decision. I think that's how this happens. Maybe you want to sprinkle a little of that plus money, but I think Antonina is the way to go. I think this is an easy fight for her. Only negative is she's 35, but Chookagian's past that 30-year-old threshold where the decline starts to come as well. So I'll take Shevchenko.
I love it. Good stuff. All right, let's move on to the main card, the women's strawweight. We've got Mackenzie Dern, a -400 favorite versus Hannah Cifers +330. Dern is a former Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. There we go. Having never have won by knockout or TKO, but more forcing her opponents to submit. Cifers is 2-2 in the UFC, and it really just seems like Dern is the more polished fighter. I don't know if you agree with me, if you like the heavy favorite, but if you do, is there a method of victory that you find more value in with the favorite, or do you like the...
That's the only way you could bet this fight is by choosing the outcome of the event. Because the price on Dern, it's warranted, but I'm not willing to lay it. It's her fight to lose. I mean, for Cifers to have any shot at winning, she has to keep this fight upright. Because Dern is arguably the most decorated grappler in women's MMA we've ever seen. If she takes Cifers down, head to the kitchen, grab your drink, because this fight's over. It's just a matter of time before she gets position, submits her, or ground and pounds her. So for Cifers, she has to stay upright. Here's the only negative for Dern. Even though she's 2-1 in the UFC, she's only nailed 1 takedown. So she's been able to win, but she hasn't been able to secure those takedowns, which is her game. If she plays out what her strengths, this is an easy fight for her. If Cifers is able to keep this standing, it gets a little more interesting because Cifers got some Muay Thai skills and she's got some decent takedown defense. But again, she'll be in trouble on the ground if that happens. I think if I have to bet this fight, and I'm actually looking at it, I got to look at the Dern side, but I would have to fight to bet her to win inside the distance at anything. If I could get anything less than -200, I think it's an okay bet. I believe she will finish her greater than 2 out of 3 times, a little higher than that, probably around 70% of the time. I think Dern finishers are inside the distance. So I think there's some value there if you find under 200. Not even sure what that number is right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think that's where you got to look. Again, this is Dern's fight to lose. And they're forcing you to bet Cifers or leave it alone unless you're willing to lay the chalk. But again, I don't see Dern losing this fight. Height advantage, reach advantage, everything in her favor.
All righty. Moving on to the lightweight, we've got Roosevelt Roberts minus 330 versus Brok Weaver plus 270. Weaver is more of a brawler and a boxer, and Roberts is more technical and has better cardio. Roberts got handed his first loss in the UFC, and although Weaver has won his last 8 fights, he has only one win in the UFC, but it was a weird one. He got struck by an illegal knee, which gave him the win. Is that maybe why there's such a huge gap in this line? Is because we kind of don't know?
You nailed it. That's exactly why this price is as high as it is. Roberts, well deserving to be a favorite. In fact, he opened the minus 200 at like one book, got pounded immediately. Yep. Everyone else opened it at minus 290. And now it's up to 330, 335, and it's probably only going to keep going in one direction, even though I think Weaver's going to have some fan base come Saturday because he's a likable fighter. He's aggressive. He's got decent boxing. He mixes in his takedowns pretty well, and he'll continue to pressure Roberts. And when we saw Roberts get that loss, that was the reason. Pichel was able to survive early and grind out the win. Roberts doesn't do well to aggression, doesn't do well to pressure. And that's my only concern about laying this price. But again, Roberts is the side, but price is everything. And what I mean by that is this. For our listeners, our watchers out there, this is more important than any pick I'm going to give you. Let's say you do all your work, you handicap the fight, whether you use power ratings, whether you use models, whether you just watch the fighters. When you decide and you conclude your win probability, and let's say you come out and you say fighter A should win this fight 60% of the time, fighter B 40% of the time. If you look up on the board and fighter A is minus 160 and fighter B is plus 140, who do you bet? I'd love to hear an answer for that. And let's say you get a 10-cent line and you're even better than that. And you use the Asian books I use. And instead you got minus 160 and plus 150. Now who do you bet? If you're the conclusion of 60% fighter A, 40% fighter B, and the bookie puts up minus 160 plus 140, you tell me what the bet is. I'm interested to hear what the people that are following actually come up with, because that sums up finding value in MMA better, like in a nutshell. The best way I could explain it, how it was broken down to me and changed my whole outlook on betting all sports. So getting back to line means everything. This line's too high. Use Roberts in your parlays. I think there should be some. I don't think he's going to lose this fight, but I would bet 300. I wouldn't lay 300 for that. I don't think I'm getting the best.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Okay, Roberts is aside, but it's just a little too high. One thing that I did want to talk about.
Sorry, if the line keeps going, you're going to have to look to the Brok Weaver side. I mean, eventually, there's, I think Roosevelt wins this fight. But if he goes like minus 400 and where you're getting plus 330 on Weaver, then I'm sprinkling something on Weaver because that's just line value. I got to bet that, even if I think he's going to lose the fight. But it hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, luckily. And one fight I did want to talk about was one that got canceled. It was the Kevin Holland one, and we just saw him fight last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. And he was a big favorite in this one, but a small favorite in 2 weeks ago's fight. So that was one I was actually excited to see him again, and who knows how he would have performed, because he didn't really, there was not much damage done to him because he just knocked the guy out like in the first round. And
he was going to drop down a weight class as well, because this one was this is at welterweight. He was going to fight Rodriguez, and he fought at middleweight not long, his last fight. So they were asking a lot from Kevin Holland. He was asking a lot from himself. Supposedly it's a shoulder injury. I don't know if it's the weight, the injury, who knows. But,
who knows? Maybe they'll see him again soon.
Now Gabriel Green steps in, and again, he got signed for this fight. Again, I'd look to Rodriguez, maybe throw him in your parlays. We know
Really?
fighters on late notice, they're behind the eight ball. When they're on a week late notice, the win percentage is very, very poor. Not as poor as this betting line reflects. And I don't know enough about Green to fade them or bet them.
Right.
But just the situation and knowing what I did peek at his who he fought so far, his level of opposition is nothing like what he's going to face come Saturday night. Now, sometimes, you catch lightning in a bottle and the kid gets it done and becomes a big star overnight. But, more times than not, that doesn't happen.
It's not the case. Yeah, right. All right, so we'll just move on. But I just did want to mention Kevin Holland because I was interested in that one. And I'm sure a ton of people were because it was a familiar name they saw a couple of weeks ago. Next, we'll move to the heavyweight co-main event. Blagoy Ivanov, -110 I have versus Augusto Sakai, also -110. Ivanov, I feel like everyone's going to talk about this like he got stabbed next to the heart in 2012 and it took 2 years to recover, but he's had some wins in the past versus notable fighters. He's coming off a loss most recently, and Sakai, however, has won 3 of his last 3 UFC fights. 2 of them were knockout wins, and the line seems so spot on. It's basically a pick 'em. I am just like crazy to think that maybe Augusto Sakai can win versus knockout again. Or like via knockout again versus knockout again.
That's how I was looking at this fight. And when the line opened, I should have bet Sakai as an underdog.
Because he was for a bit.
I really thought this was a coin flip fight because here's why. Sakai could get the finish. Blagoy wants to take it into deep waters. That's his bread and butter. And that's rare for heavyweights to go to decisions. I mean, inside the UFC, I think 74%, close to 75% of heavyweight bouts finish inside the distance. And yet, if you look at the betting line for this one, it's highly favored to go over. The rounds for a heavyweight fight are almost always 1.5 in a 3-round fight. This one's 2.5 with the over favored. And will it go to distance or not? The yes is actually favored. I think that's the right side. I really do think this goes the distance. Here's why. Ivanov is as tough as they come. You mentioned the stabbing he survived. He's already shown in his career how durable he is. He trained in AKA with Daniel Cormier and Kane. You can't get better training partners than that. And for this fight, he's been training with Ngannou. So again, Spartan partners, just looking at them, you got to look to Blagoy. That he's a pretty tough guy if that's who you're sparring with. Those 3 guys. With that said, I think for him to win it, he's going to have to take Sakai down, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that. In fact, I don't think Sakai's ever been taken down in the UFC in all his 3 of his fights. He's very difficult to put down. And even more so, he's comes from a team that are elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. So even there, I think he's fine. But again, he prefers to keep this standing and get the knockout. It's a coin flip, and I don't like laying juice on a coin flip. So at a dog, maybe Ivanov, or if Ivanov was the favorite, and I guess Sakai is a dog, maybe Sakai is a dog. But otherwise, I like the over. I really do. And what sucks is that if you bet an over in heavyweight fights, you're going to hold your breath the whole time. So this is going to be 12.5 minutes of breath holding if you want to do it. I haven't done it, but I think that's the right side. I do.
I have done it before, and it was, I think, the Teixeira fight to go the distance, and I was so close. I was very holding my breath. It is not fun to have an over for a heavyweight bout.
Every shot that lands could finish it. You know what I mean? And the refs are so quick to call it. Like, where sometimes if it's, bantamweight, flyweights, they'll let them take a little ground and pound and see if they could get out of the position. With heavyweights, you land one hammer fist and he's waving it off. They don't want 3 or 4 of them followed. So that's also the issue, betting the unders in heavyweight bouts. What ref is there? And he's a ref that is willing to let fights go. I'm not sure who's reffing that fight. I don't get that info till late.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, you're right. They're heavy blows that they like give out. And it's like, I feel like their cardio isn't as, good as, like a lightweight or a featherweight. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay away from it. But I like that.
I love Sakai as a dog, or like parlay Sakai and over. But I think I'd be, again, holding my breath. He's got a huge reach advantage, 4 inches, 4-inch height advantage. If he keeps this standing, I think he just beats Blagoy up. But the problem is Blagoy could take a beating like few can.
Yeah.
But he's getting older. He's 33 now. So again, for the show, if I have to pick it, I'm giving you Sakai and the over. But the over is probably more line value than Sakai.
Gianni, Prez here, jumping in. I got a couple of questions I actually do want to know the answers to. The first question is, why do they change refs every match? Is it the cardio? They're just doing too much work? They're too tired to ref the next match? That part always confuses me. They just stand there. Why can't they have the same ref for the entire card?
That's the reason. If you want efficiency, you want a guy at his most optimum. And if he was just in there reffing a 3-round fight that may have been real physical, or a knockout where he had to dive in there, pull the guy off, there's a lot of adrenaline dumps and stuff like that. And now you have him to ref another fight. There's enough refs in the athletic commissions to just move them in and out. I think that's why they do it. I agree with you. It's probably not necessary for every fight, for them to hit the reset. But I think that's what it's for. It's just to have him at his optimum self.
Fresh eyes, fresh mind. Yeah.
So what percentage of refs would have stopped the Overeem fight in the first round?
A lot of them.
Really?
A lot of them would have. Yeah, especially because it's a heavyweight bout. I thought they were gonna. You see that all the time. And then other ones they let go. That's the problem with judging and reffing, that we don't have, like, these are the rules, let's stick to them. It doesn't seem like that. From commission to commission, it changes what they enjoy watching, just from the judging, let alone the reffing.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because I couldn't believe that fight continued. But what an ending. Okay, Minty, sorry. I'll mute myself.
It is okay.
Oh, no, if you got any questions, fire away.
You're fine. Also, I want to throw in a fact that kind of reminded me of, like, drug sniffing dogs. They only work on, like, half-hour shifts because they need to, like, refresh their noses and refresh their minds. So that kind of reminded me of why they switch refs.
Yeah, to be at your optimum, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to the main event, the welterweight match. Tyron Woodley, minus 180 right now versus Gilbert Burns, plus 160. The former welterweight champion, Tyron Woodley, with some more conservative fighting style here, and Gilbert Burns on a hot 5-fight win streak. I can see advantages for both fighters. I'm personally leaning Woodley, but, like, I don't really know if I'm super sure of that because, like, Burns is stepping up in this fight, and it'll be kind of challenging for Burns himself. So I want to hear what your thoughts are, Gianni, and who you like in this fight.
Yeah, for me, fortunately, this was a very easy fight.
Really?
As a bettor to look at. Yeah. Just because as a bettor who bets sports where I couldn't even name a player because we're able to beat the market, looking at this fight from that perspective, just as a professional bettor that's looking for inefficiencies in the market, Woodley's the side. And that's obvious. I mean, Burns at even plus 160, 170 doesn't offer value, let alone at plus 150 that he is now. There's zero line value there. Woodley, if you're a guy that just looks for betting market inefficiencies, and it's easy. It's Woodley or leave the fight alone. And here's why. Let's not forget, even though it's been 300 plus days since Woodley's entered the octagon, the last time he did, he closed as a minus 220 favorite against Usman. 220 against Usman. Yeah, he lost that fight, but he still closed at a minus 220 favorite. You can't overlook that. We, the betting market, concluded that Woodley should win that fight 7 out of 10 times. Not the odds makers. We, the bettors, concluded that because the line opened Woodley minus like 140, 150 against Usman. I bet Usman that night because when it got to that price, I thought it was just way too much value on Usman. But I mean, this price on the Burns side, again, if we know one thing that we always say that odds makers do better than bettors is they never overreact off any single result. They know that the randomness involved in the outcome of any single sporting event or any fight is humongous. A missed call. Just ask the Saints why they didn't go to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Just ask a fighter who got robbed by the judges. There's so much randomness involved in the outcome of one event that odds makers know not to have a knee-jerk reaction, not to over-adjust. They do that better than the bettors who kind of remember what we saw last, and there's an overreaction. So as far as line value goes, I think it's easy. The line value is on Woodley. Now, looking at the handicap, I think it also favors Woodley. For Burns to win, here's what he needs to do. He needs to win by decision in a 5-round fight, something he's never attempted in the UFC. He's never gone 5 rounds in the UFC. He's got to beat a former world champion in a decision because you're not going to finish Woodley. He's not knocking Woodley out, and he's not going to submit Woodley. As good of a grappler as Burns is, you're talking about a Division I wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt himself in Tyron Woodley, who has the 3rd best takedown defense in UFC history. In fact, prior to Usman, you had to go back to, 2014 was the last time anyone even took Woodley down one time in a fight. So the thought that Burns is going to go in there and use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submit him, how? Like, I haven't seen anything in the past to suggest that's a possibility against Tyron Woodley. Now, maybe we'll find out Saturday that he's shot, that it is a possibility. But up till now, nothing in the data, nothing in the past fights show me that Woodley will be taken down and dominated on the ground by anybody, let alone Gilbert Burns. That's just very highly unlikely and improbable based on everything we know. So Burns has to win a decision. How is he going to do that? The way to do that is, 1, outstrike Woodley with volume because Woodley doesn't throw a lot of volume. And that's somewhere where Burns can win a decision if he lands more than Woodley. The problem is what happens when Woodley lands that shot on Burns. Burns was finished at 155 pounds. He was a lightweight. He's now fighting at welterweight. Woodley will end his career at middleweight. Woodley walks around at 200 pounds. Not when he's not fighting. He's a big guy. I think too much power, too much experience. If he's not able to be taken down, he'll have a reach advantage, something he rarely ever has. Woodley's even going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. And he looks as focused as I've ever seen him. The Woodley side does. Went to Thailand, refocus. I mean, that's what you want from a champion. Again, I love what I'm seeing from Burns. He's willing to take this fight. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Few were. Colby Covington passed. Leon Edwards, or Leon Scott, as he's called. You know, he couldn't come over from England. So, again, Burns stepping up. This is an opportunity for him to launch himself, you know, against a top 5 guy. But I think it's too much too soon. We're looking at recency bias of how good Burns looked. And I just think, again, as a bettor that looks for line value, I think it's either Woodley or pass if you're that kind of bettor. If you're a bettor that just looks at the fight and tries to predict outcomes, which is impossible, but let's say you try to do that. What in the past makes you think Woodley's going to be taken down and submitted? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm missing it. So I think that's the side. And I also think they made a simple mistake of putting that over under at 4.5. Yeah, what were they thinking? That was wrong. And they got reprimanded for it. You know, you put up a wrong number in this city, you're going to get slapped around by some short bet. And that's what happened here. This fight should not go to distance.
I don't think so.
No, I don't see it. I really don't. I think Woodley gets his knockout. Woodley, I believe, has, 4 losses in his career? And if I'm not mistaken, I worked with Woodley on the show On the Line. So I'm a little biased because I really like him. He's so
I heard he's a really nice guy.
He's so intelligent, too. And, I mean, they're all smart. But, I mean, the way he was asking me gambling questions blew me away because he actually wanted to learn something. And I was like, wow. Like, I was really shocked by the questions Woodley asked me. So I'm a little biased there. But again, after all his losses, if I'm not mistaken, I think he came back and won by knockout. Don't call me out on that and bash if I'm wrong. But I think that's the case. So I don't see why that doesn't repeat itself. I think Woodley wins. I don't think it goes the distance. I think Burns gets finished here. We'll see. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Time will tell.
Right. Interesting. All right. Well, I also lean Woodley, so hopefully we're right. Well, thank you so much, Gianni, for all that free info. Thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week with Gianni and myself and Kelly most of the time. Please do not forget to subscribe to Wager Talk TV on YouTube and follow Wager Talk on Twitter at Wager Talk. Also, Gianni at Greek_Gambler and me at Minty Best. See you guys next week for UFC 250.